Namaste, Adab, Sat Sri Akal, and hello. This is Darshan Kaur, your Parikrama host, and today I'm here with the first episode of a new limited edition series called The Joy of Giving. In this series, we will bring to you several prominent Indian Americans who have made giving their way of life. My guest today has held CEO and other business leadership positions, such as chairman, board member, etc., in prominent global companies, which include, but are not limited to, American Express, Kraft General Foods, Pepsi, Crawford and Company, Belmond, Domino's, Jimmy John's, Little Caesars, Church's Fried Chicken, Krystal and Company, Friendly's, Quiznos. Well, I guess you get the drift. He also received the B'nai B'rith International Distinguished Achievement Award in 2019, was honored as the most admired CEO by the Atlanta Business Chronicle in 2017. He was also featured by Money Inc. in the 20 most notable Duke University alumni in business. He also delivered the 2009 commencement speech at the Fuqua School of Business at the Duke University. He's the current board member of two NYSE listed companies, one private company, and two nonprofits, which are Fuqua School of Business, Duke University, and the Carter Center. In fact, he rang the NYSE bell twice, but that's just his career success. He also created Ghs Charitable Foundation and disbursed 2 million towards education in the United States and in India with a focus on women. He's the chairman of the Sksvma Trust and Agadi Sunrise Hospital, which are both located in India. So, without much ado, joining me in the studio today is Mr. Harshvardhan V. Agadi. Harshaji, I was telling our viewers about your outstanding achievements and success in business and throughout your career. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But today we're here and we're going to talk about the joy of giving because that's what our program is all about. So let me begin at the beginning, just starting with your name. So I hear that you are named after King Harshavardhan, who was known for his charitable deeds. So why didn't you tell us the story yourself?
Well, nice to meet you, Darshan Ji, first of all. And I will say I'm deeply honored to be selected here as the first of a series on the joy of giving. My name is very interesting, no doubt. I was born during the India China War. And the last time India had an altercation with China was during King Harshavardhan's time. And my parents, interestingly, chose my name in memory of that king. And I did some research over the years, curious about my name. And Harshvardhan means the giver of happiness, the giver of joy. Amazingly, the Kumbh Mela that today happens in India began during King Harshavardhan's era, where every year he accumulated the wealth of the kingdom in a single location and gave it away. Every year he'd give away, if you will, the taxes he collected and everything else to the needy and the poor. And that to me was truly inspirational. And I hope to live that life in some small way. And the journey is on.
I think you're already doing that. So you're very aptly named. So kudos to your parents.
Thank you.
They foresaw the kind of person you're going to be, right? So you just mentioned journey. So let's start with the journey. How did your journey start with your, especially in the area of doing charity?
Well, I had the opportunity coming from India at the age of 21 to go to Duke University to do my MBA. And when you land from India, like any typical Indian, you're allowed two suitcases. So you come with two suitcases and a few dollars in your pocket. But over the years, because of where I went and the kind of classmates I had and the peer group I had interacted with, I had tasted some success. And I deeply felt I owed my alma mater. My wife actually comes from a multi generational family of giving. They've done this for years in India, and my parents have done a lot of giving as well. And that really sparked my interest. And truly, my wife constantly challenges me to think how to give every single day. Every day for her is a new day where she makes me think again and again. And frankly, it's that urge to give. And in fact, at Duke University, we've established two scholarships for two Indian women every year to receive the scholarship in the MBA program. And through that scholarship program, now 20 Indian women have gotten their MBAs. So we're very happy that it's changing lives and making an impact. And frankly, the alma mater that trained me to function and be successful in this country.
But that's great. But I also hear that's not the only charitable work that you do. So can you please tell us about all the other charitable stuff? You have a charitable
Sure.
organization. I mean, what I talked about, we said it's just the tip of the iceberg.
So
Please tell us.
sure, we have two institutions, uh, or we have established. One is the Ghs Charitable Foundation in the United States, where we have dispersed now over $2 million to a number of organizations. I'll just name a few very quickly. Children's Healthcare in Atlanta, KIPP schools, which are charter schools, St. Jude's, and I can go on, and including Duke University that I mentioned. But in India, we have what is called as the Sksvma Charitable Trust. We run an engineering college and we charge approximately 60,000 rupees in terms of fees for an engineering program, another 20,000 for room and board. Majority of the students are girls. It is a residential campus. It is about 60 plus acres, and we're able to run it profitably. It is standing on its own feet, and this is now almost 20 years in running. And truly, we get excited when we go to this campus, which is in rural Karnataka, and we see how lives are changing. Many of the girls are the very first individuals in their families getting educated. If you educate a woman, you educate an entire family. And it is a vision that my parents had, that my wife and I are continuing forward in a very successful manner. We're truly blessed with the friends we have in Atlanta. A number of them have established endowments on our campus, having perpetual scholarships for these students. No member of the family takes any money out of the campus. The campus generates cash. And today we have 27 buildings on campus. This is an amazing story of changing lives in a rural setting in India.
That's very amazing, amazing. Because as you were talking, I was getting goosebumps, right? Because this is what the joy of giving is all about,
Correct.
right? When you change lives, when you're able to, like you mentioned very appropriately, that you educate a woman, you educate the entire family, right?
Correct.
So I was getting goosebumps just listening to you. Moving on, I have a very interesting question, and this has been intriguing me for quite a while. So when we decided to do this series, I said I'm going to ask my very first guest this question. So
Go
you
ahead.
are, and I'm not going to give you $1 million for answering this right. Um, we've seen and I've noticed, and I watch a lot of Indian news, keep up with what's going on in India. So I've noticed as a rule that Indian billionaires and millionaires usually they do not do much charity. I mean, we've heard of Aziz Premji, but he's he's the only one you keep hearing the name again and again,
Right.
right? But if you had made your money in India, do you think you would still be doing this, or has this country, like United States, helped you to develop that sense of giving?
Well, interestingly, I think I would still be giving if we were in India and we had continued to live in India. But I'll tell you what, the United States has definitely inspired us to do more and more giving. There is no question, no doubt. Statistically, just to share with you, 65% of all world charitable funds come from the United States. You'll be amazed and shocked. the country with the least amount of charities that go out, which may not surprise you, is interestingly China. This is a stat when you look at all countries around the world. Now, having said that, one thing I will say is writing a check for a large amount of money is fine. Doesn't matter how large the number is. It takes about 10 seconds, give or take. But actually, physically doing the work of charity is much more difficult. We give out approximately 100 scholarships on our campus in India. And sitting here in the US, we actually sift through paperwork, resumes, grades to make sure we're being as objective as possible in terms of who is receiving a scholarship in civil engineering or in computer science or in electrical engineering, so on and so forth. And we even have scholarships for top sports folks, uh, scholarships for personality competition. So we have all kinds of scholarships. But doing that actual work is not easy. You have to get on a plane, you have to go to India, you have to spend time in rural India and do the work. We have sponsored orphanages, and I'm blessed to say that my wife and son travel with me, including my mother, who's over 80. And we go into these orphanages, and we also go into what we call as old age homes. And it is heart-rending to see a 6-year-old child who knows that he does not have parents, and to convince him there is a future and it is bright and it can happen. And here we are trying to help you. It is pretty amazing moment when you're sitting there, and it's very emotional as well. And even here, when you go to the inner cities, and I've worked with students in the inner cities just on college search. How do you figure out which college to apply? And when you see the kids, they don't have the exposure that you would have in a Johns Creek or a Buckhead, because they're in these deep inner city schools and they don't have that exposure. Their parents haven't given them that opportunity. Actually going there and sitting down with them and working with them on a Saturday is an amazing, amazing impact to the mind and heart.
No, that's you know what you said, and I'm still processing that information because I really like what you said. It takes 10 seconds to write a check, right? That's
Correct.
it. But the work that you do, you were the operations, the sheer scale of operations that you do, and I was really surprised to hear that you're actually you go in person, or that your family accompanies you, and that you're doing all these things in person and taking out the time. So how much percentage of time would you say approximately that you devote to these activities, these
It can range. So for example, in a December of every year, we're spending almost all the time trying to make that impact in India, as an example. But otherwise, the time spent is more related to U.S. charities. And I will say, Geeta, my wife, is the vice chair of the trust, and she's quite involved. She's extremely practical in her approach, and she's very even keel and objective as money is being dispersed. And it really makes a big difference in how we take the approach. So we spend a fair bit of time. I haven't calculated percentages to be precise.
Okay. Okay. I mean, fair enough. And I wasn't trying, I'm not going to do a stats report on this, so don't
Right,
worry about
right,
it.
right,
All right. So, okay. So, moving on to my next question. So, sometimes, it's like people have the inclination to do charity, but they just don't have the money. So they keep putting it off, or they say, I'm going to be a certain age and then I'll
right.
do charity, right? So what is your advice to people like that? Like, is there something that they can pledge on, right now? Like, what would you say to these kind of people?
Well, here's what I'll say, and maybe I'll make this statement first. There is no baggage allowed on your final trip. When you leave this world, this planet, there is no baggage allowed. Let's not forget that. And therefore, what you make in this lifetime, you really want to contribute to society what you give your children more than anything is values. And your values are the most important thing that remain behind once you're gone. I realized probably in my late 30s, early 40s, that I could give, but I couldn't afford it. So I would pledge and I would keep my commitment. And in fact, at times my wife would ask me, how are we going to pay that? And I would say, well, I got to be more successful so I can keep the commitment of my pledge. And we started early. Today, we have no outstanding pledges. Whatever we committed, we have done, and hopefully we'll have more pledges in the future. But we have one son, he's working in New York. He got a good education. He knows very well not to expect a dime from us. What really puzzles me, is there are people working beyond 65 and they're still trying to make money and still trying to keep it together with the hope of giving their children a lot. It is not what you give children in terms of dollars, it's values. The values remain forever. My wife's inspiration are her parents. They gave a lot to society, and that's the value she came with to this country. I saw in my lifetime my parents giving a lot, and that's the values I have. And I can also say this, that very clearly, the money we have given today is not money we have inherited. It is money that we have worked hard and contributed back to society. And we are happy about it, but we don't want any recognition. To me, the minute you get recognition, you got payback on, say, the investment. That's bad. You just want to give it and walk away. I like the name Anamika for that reason, because you're never identified. And that's the way it should be.
Right. So uh, that's something my father used to say as well. I think there is a saying in Hindi, "Neki kar darya mein dal," right? So
Correct. Exactly. Exactly. And that's the way it should be.
right, and that's probably the reason that you hide a lot, and it was very challenging for us to get you to come out of hiding and even talk about this with us, right?
No, but as I said, I'm humbled and honored that, you know, both yourself and Kailash ji wanted to do this with me. And I hope it inspires the next generation to do a lot. And also, the friends we have in Atlanta, they've stepped up and contributed to our foundation and trust. And I want to take a moment and thank them as well.
So, no, that's it's inspiring just to be in your presence. That's all I can say. So I'm gonna move on to I think this should be my last question. But if it triggers some other questions, then please don't hold me to this.
No
Uh,
problem.
so so the joy of giving, as we talked about, it's just not in writing checks or donating money. It's about sharing, right?
Mhm.
And sharing of resources is one,
Right,
sharing of wisdom, so things like that. So I heard from Geeta ji, your better half, and you've been praising her all along in this conversation. I
rightly
heard from
so.
her that you're quite adept at giving in those other areas as well, like imparting wisdom, which you've been
Right.
sharing with us kindly as well. So please tell us about that and how your experience of doing that has been different than your experience of doing all the other charitable work that you talked about.
Sure. I spend a tremendous amount of time, or I have over the years, counseling and giving ideas to young children, particularly in the age group of ninth grade to 12th grade, high schoolers. When I see them as unbelievably bright with an unbelievably beautiful future ahead of them. Yesterday, as an example, I met a young lady living in Atlanta. She came and met me with her father. She goes to the Gwinnett Math and Science Academy. She wants to have a career in renewable energy. She's off the charts academically, but Indian kids have a certain psyche in them that they think they're not good enough. And frankly, Indian kids in this country, I don't need to say anything, are off the charts. And so I sat with her to actually confirm to her she's a superstar. She needs to apply to the best of the best, and she will actually get in. And frankly, I said to her, I'd like to take a photo with you so that when you become famous, I can show off to everybody 20 years from now that I met you a long time ago. And I think hopefully she is convinced of her choices of universities and where to apply. And I had looked at her resume, I had looked at her SAT score, everything is off the charts. But she had to be convinced not by parents, but by somebody else. And I happen to be that somebody else. I've actually even spent time using a whiteboard and drawing out various scenarios. The only thing we have in life within our hands is making choices. Those choices we make has consequences, sometimes unintended consequences. And once you show a youngster all of those array of consequences, they will figure out the best way to choose. And so far, I've not met an individual, especially in the high schoolers, who are at least twice as smart as me. Every one of them is very smart. And it is our job, doesn't have to be your child, that you make a difference to somebody else's child who will rise and shine and make a massive difference in life. I hope the scholarships that individuals are receiving from us someday will give their own scholarships. And that'll be a very pleasing moment for Geeta and me. And I do spend time sitting with these kids and talking to them. I lead a very, very enriching life. I have to say that, Darshanji. And I'm thankful to God every day that I lead such a beautiful life.
So that was beautiful, actually, what you said about paying it forward. That you hope that someday these very children that are the recipients will be able to be the givers in the
Correct,
future.
correct,
So a very very nice thought. I love the whole concept of pay it forward, right?
correct.
Um, so um, so this would you say, I mean, in comparison to all the different charitable work that you do, this working and mentoring kids, is this, where does it fall in your category of favorite, or
Well, extremely fulfilling and very high up in the category, I should say. Extremely fulfilling. So, and I've enjoyed it. And I have to say, I get to make a lot of friends because of that. And I get emails from these kids over the years telling me what they're up to. I only ask them for one thing in as a payback: invite me to your wedding so I have a good time at your wedding.
nice. Nice, nice. I like that. I wish you had mentored me. Now I'm kind of feeling I missed out on something, right?
No, we can still meet and talk
I,
anytime.
I would love that. Thank you very much. But actually, our conversation today is coming to an end. So I just wanted to thank you so much for your time. I know you're a very busy person. We heard your phone go ding 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 a few times in between. So people are still trying to catch you, and you are such a busy person, and that's why just having you over here, being able to talk to you, to learn from you is so much appreciable, and I feel very grateful that you were able to do this with us.
Well, thank you very much. I think in closing, the only thing I would want to ask, as opposed to tell, is we as Indians in this country are leading in every field. Let us lead in the field of giving. Let us set examples to the next generations of Indians that we are the most charitable folks in this country. And let us make it, doesn't have to be very big, it can be small, and nothing is small or big. It depends on what you can do. And I can tell you, even during the pandemic, there are a tremendous number of opportunities. And we should really do that. We did one small thing during the pandemic. We went to one of the post offices and delivered breakfast right in the middle of the pandemic. And there were maybe about 100 employees. And let me tell you, they were stunned that we showed up with donuts, with sandwiches, and we said, thank you for what you do. These are small things that we do, but we all need to celebrate these moments and thank the people who we never get a chance to thank.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like I said, and yet another wonderful insight into the world of charity and the joy of
Thank,
giving, which is what this program is all about. So thank you so much, Harsha ji. I really appreciate you being here. And like I said, so inspiring, and it's a pleasure just to be in your presence and to
thank
talk.
you. Be safe. God bless.
Thanks. So I hope you all really enjoyed this podcast, and I'm sure that you have quite a few takeaways from this conversation, just like I do. I will see you soon again, yet with yet another Parikrama podcast. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay happy. See you soon. Bye bye.